Recording in progress.
I don't need to do a thing. Good morning. We're the Universalist Unitarian community of Halifax, in the sanctuary and up on Zoom. My name's Margaret Galbraith, and I will be your service leader this morning. I'm a member of the Climate Crisis team, and we've put this service together for you. Our guest presenter today is Kate Brooks, who is the Community Climate Activator with the Ecology Action Center. Here at UUCH, we are a progressive spiritual community. We recognize that the truths of the universe are too complex to be summed up in any one religious tradition's dogma. Instead of prescribed beliefs, here we focus on relationships, community, and responsible action in this life. Our minister, the Reverend Ben Robbins, has been out of town this past week. He can be contacted at minister@uuch.ca. We especially welcome anyone who's new or newish in here or on Zoom. If you would like to introduce yourself, I can bring you around the microphone, but you don't have to. And if you put your contact information in the guest book in the ballroom, on the table there, we can add you to the UU Info Church e-news list, if you want. Those of you here in person, you're welcome to join us after the service for coffee and conversation, and on Zoom, stay for an after-service chat. Tristan Calloway is our accompanist, and Riley Friesian manages the technology. Andrea Dewar is our part-time office administrator. She's available at admin@uuch.ca. For the activities for the coming week, see the announcements in the order of service. There's an item that missed the deadline. There will be a rally at Province House on Wednesday at noon. Many of you may have heard of it already. It's to protest the recent actions of our provincial government. And I'm not saying any more about that right now. Brian Gifford will give the land and climate acknowledgement today.
Thanks, Margaret. We acknowledge that we are meeting today on the ancestral unceded land of the Mi'kmaq people. Peace and friendship treaties were entered into between European settlers and the indigenous people in the 18th century. These treaties were violated by the settlers, yet we must remember we are all still treaty people and commit ourselves to collaboratively seek truth and reconciliation with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Our own UU principles also call us to seek justice for Nova Scotia's Black community and for other marginalized groups and people of color who are also experiencing discrimination and oppression. As UU members, we also covenant to affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Today, this requires us to address the human-caused climate crisis threatening all life on Earth.
And now our chalice reading today will be done by Mary Frances.
These words are adapted from Barbara J. Peskin. For the beauty of the earth, this spinning blue-green ball, yes. Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together again in this place. And we light this chalice as we remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live. Welcome us.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 173 in the Grey Book, In the Branches of the Forest. The words will be on the screens. Please stand if you are able. It's an unfamiliar hymn to most of us, but I think we can manage. Now is the time in our service to reflect on our joys and sorrows and complex truths that you, the members and friends of this congregation, are living, and to acknowledge the mutual support of this community. I will drop a stone in our communal well for all those who are with us or in our thoughts who are struggling mentally, physically, financially, emotionally. I would also put one in for all the joys that are in the room and online, the big joys that come only infrequently, the little joys that we are blessed with every day. If you wish to share a joy or a sorrow or a complex truth, please come forward to put in a stone. You may speak your thoughts or come silently. I can also bring the mic to you.
Hi, this is Barbara Alshani. You all know me. You also know that I have a wonderful little great-grandson. And today the joy is that another one is on the way from another couple. The father is Nick Weltmeyer. And it is his and his wife who are expecting, and they were told that it will be a boy, and approximate arrival time is June the 6th. So I'm going to have 2 little great-grandsons.
Congratulations, Barbara. That's wonderful.
We also have 10 online.
Okay. A really big stone for him. Pam?
Oh, hi. I just could drop a stone in file for me because I've been fighting vertigo and I'm almost over it. I've had 2 sessions trying to get the crystals in my inner ear back where they're supposed to be so that I don't feel like I'm spinning. The room is spinning. I have 1 more session on Tuesday and I hope that will be it. So I'm grateful that I have been able to overcome this because it's very well it's really puts you on you sit on the couch a lot because you're afraid to walk. Vertigo is not fun.
Put in a stone for that.
Hi, I'm Judy Johnson, and I learned that a friend of mine passed away in Ontario. He played piano for our jazz singing group, but he also played piano for people like Doc Severinsen and Nancy Wilson and people like that. He was really talented. But he was also just a really sweet guy, so he'll be missed.
Amy?
I am Amy Moonshadow. Pronouns are okay. I am Amy Moonshadow. My pronouns are she, her, and just want everyone to participate in democracy. Nomination meetings are happening because guess what? A big election is coming, whether we want it or not. And so participate as you are able, and let's keep democracy in Canada going. You saw what happened last week in the United States, and it's scary.
Do you want to put in a stone, Amy?
Big one.
Hmm. I'll put in one last stone for all those joys and sorrows that are held in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. It is these expressions, both spoken and unspoken, that weave us together in the fabric of community. And now time for our offering. The ongoing functions of our congregation require your support in whatever way you can contribute. If you can offer financial support, the best way to do that is through your annual pledge drive in the fall, which is what many of us do. You can also contribute cash each week in our collection bowl. And this week, the money will go to support the Saturday brunch. You can also e-transfer your contribution to treasurer@uuch.ca. Now let us sing together number 112, Do You Hear? I think this one's a bit more familiar. Please stand if you are able, and the words will be on the screens. Our presenter this morning is Kate Brooks, the Community Climate Activator with the Ecology Action Center. She'll be speaking to us about the Climate Commitment Badge Program.
Good morning. How are you? I am sort of lousy at using these, so if you are having trouble hearing me, please wave frantically and I'll adjust what I'm doing. Okay. My name is Kate. My pronouns are she and her. I want to start today by thanking you all for having me here. I can't tell you how important this feels to me. Before I launch into what I'm actually here to talk about, I just wanted to let you know that I spent 20 plus years up in Victoria County, Cape Breton, running the library in Bedeque and running a small subsistence homestead. And there were several of us who either came from Unitarian Universalist backgrounds or were interested in this perspective on faith. And we actually started a Unitarian Universalist adjacent discussion group once a month that was hosted in the United Church in Bedeque. They were lovely to allow us to meet there. We met there for about 18 months, 2 years, something like that. About a dozen of us coming from every corner of the extremely large Victoria County. Although we didn't exactly do what you've done here today by way of order of service, we used the principles to guide us. So it feels lovely to be here today in a group that is actually doing what we aimed at doing so long ago. So thank you for that. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about a program that the Ecology Action Center has been working on with Halifax, which is the HRM's climate team. And Riley, if you feel like putting up the first slide. Yeah, so the program is called the Climate Commitment Badge Program. And we'll go into kind of what that's all about a little later on. Essentially, it's a way to help motivate adults in the HRM to get involved in climate action. But maybe we can put up the next slide, which gives a sense of really what we're going to talk about today. So I'll briefly talk about what the Halifax Plan is, because I think a lot of us have never heard of it, despite the fact that it's been around for a while. We'll talk a little bit about the role individuals can play in this plan. We'll talk about the climate commitment badges and how it works. And then there'll be some time for conversation and questions afterwards. Okay. So first of all, how many of you have heard of the Halifax Plan? Show of hands. Okay. This is a wonderful and surprising result. Often when I stand in front of a group, there's sort of a blank look. And I think that's because the Halifax Plan came about in 2019-2020. We can pop over to the next slide there, Riley, if you like. The Halifax Plan is a climate commitment plan that the HRM put together in deep consultation with community through 2019 and actually enacted in 2020. It was a really collaborative attempt, only the second municipality in Canada to have a plan like this. And the goal of it is to bring the HRM to net zero emissions by 2050. It lays out 46 actions that people can take, but the actions are for the municipality, for businesses, for industry, and for individuals like you and I. It doesn't just deal with carbon emissions reduction, it deals with things like climate resilience. How are we going to cope with all the changes that are on the horizon with climate change? It deals with air quality, noise pollution, our health, our habitats, biodiversity, green employment, housing, and community cohesion, which I think is, from my point of view, almost the most important part of it. Because if we don't have community that has each other's backs, we won't get anywhere. I think a lot of us haven't heard of the Halifax Plan, in large part because there was something really kind of critical going on in 2020. And our attention was somewhat diverted at that time by viruses. But that said, the HRM has actually been working on enacting the Halifax Plan since 2020. You can go on the HRM website. They put up periodic updates about how the plan is going. The municipality itself is working on things like retrofitting municipally owned buildings so that they're more energy efficient, greening their municipal fleet, including transit. Riley, do you want to pop to the next one? But the role of Halifax and EAC together has more to do with the part of the Halifax Plan that involves you and I. One of the things I was really surprised about when I read the Halifax Plan initially was that up to 40% of the emissions reductions we could make in the HRM come from individual action. That was surprising to me because I think a lot of us have felt like, okay, it's all up to industry, they're the big emitters, and obviously industry has a huge role to play. Municipality has a huge role to play. But here on the municipal level, our emissions, we can actually make a really big difference. And the two biggest ways that we can make a difference are in our home energy choices and our transportation choices. Now, that said, we can't all make the same choices, right? And I think part of what and I'm here to say today that there's been a lot of shaming involved in the whole conversation around climate. And I think even 10 years ago, you would more often see people say, here are the 10 or 15 things you must do in order to be a good environmental doobie. And I don't know about you, but that always made me feel really conflicted because I ran a subsistence, farm, for crying out loud. I was doing it because I wanted to be involved in climate action. But I couldn't afford solar panels. I couldn't, certainly couldn't not have a vehicle in very rural Victoria County. Everyone has a different capacity based on their finances, based on their energy level, based on where they live, based on lots of factors. So I want to say, first of all, as I stand before you talking about getting involved in climate action, you're not going to get a lecture, okay? This is an invitation to be involved in the ways that you can be involved. Okay, let's pop to the next slide. The Halifax team has a role within it, a group within it that's all about talking to folks in the HRM. And a few years ago, they did some outreach and they asked adults in the HRM, how are you feeling about climate change? What are you doing about it? You know, just trying to get a sense of where people were with the whole question. And what they heard back was that there were about 40% of adults who responded to this outreach who said, I believe climate change is real, it's freaking me out, but I don't know what to do about it. And a lot of people sort of said, well, I'm recycling, and that's where they stopped. So the climate commitment badge idea kind of came out of that set of feedback. Halifax said, we really need to find ways of inviting people into the conversation about climate change in a way that doesn't feel frightening, that doesn't feel impossible. And someone at Halifax said, well, what if we sort of gamified it? What if we did something like, you know, when we were all Girl Guides or Boy Scouts, and you know, you could earn a badge for learning about stuff. And that's the basic idea of the Climate Commitment Badge program. So it's aimed at adults in the HRM. The idea is that we come out to groups like yours, we offer you a badge. Right now we have 3. We've got a Climate 101 badge, that's pretty basic information about climate. One is a home energy badge, and one is a getting around badge around transportation. We have 4 more in development, so you can see those coming in the next probably 6 to 8 months. We hand out the badges. They're on a little card that you can use to get to the website, where you'll find a curated collection of challenges. And the idea of the challenges is to broaden the conversation around climate action. Because when we think climate action, most of us think reducing our carbon emissions, right? Anyone in the room want to kind of hazard a guess at what else climate action might be? Yep. Advocating, absolutely. That's a hugely important piece of climate action. Maybe you can't put a solar panel on your roof right now, but you can speak out to your elected officials. Anyone else have any idea about what a climate action might be? Yeah?
Be part of a community garden?
Community gardening, absolutely. And building community, because when you're in a community garden, you're making people more food secure. You're creating food that's closer to home, so less carbon, less miles on the food that you're consuming, but you're also building community. Any other ideas about climate action? Yeah.
This isn't me, but he certainly influences me. My younger brother is an environmental attorney suing polluters.
Yeah, if you didn't hear what the comment was, her brother is an environmental attorney suing polluters. So when you go on our website to look at the climate commitment ideas, what you're not going to find is a list of thou must do this. What you're going to find is a really curated collection of primarily local links and opportunities. There are podcasts, there are videos, there are readings, there are games, there are all sorts of ways to interact with this question. And the aim is to connect people as much as possible to local organizations that are already doing good things. There's a lot that will connect you to grants and money-saving opportunities for retrofitting your house or working with your apartment. There are ways of supporting your health and well-being. There's a lot of climate action challenge related to strengthening our communities. I think what I like to say is, The bad news about where we are with climate change right now is that things are exceptionally critical, that we all must be doing something, all of us. But the good news about climate change right now, from my perspective, is we're at a point where every single skill, talent, or gift in this room is valuable. Everyone in here has something valuable to offer. So maybe you can do the big carbon emission reduction things like retrofitting your whole home, or thinking about the next car you have being a different kind of car, or getting rid of your car altogether. Maybe you can do those things. But maybe you're the person in the room who says, you know, I'm a student, I don't have a lot of money right now, or I'm not in a position to do those things. But I could look around my neighborhood and reach out to my elderly neighbors who might have trouble getting out of the neighborhood if there were a wildfire or a flood. Maybe I could take it upon myself to reach out to them and say, there's a voluntary vulnerable persons registry you can get on at the city. And if you sign up for it, someone will come rescue you if there's a disaster. Maybe you're a senior citizen who can follow what David Suzuki is telling us all to do right now, which is embrace the fact that as a senior, you don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. And you can use your voice, and you can speak up, and you can say whatever the heck you want to say, because it doesn't matter anymore, and you're the one who has that power. I saw him speak live a couple of months ago, and he's close to 90, and he looks like a little raisin now, and he was sitting in his chair with his finger up, and he was full of, as my mother used to say, piss and vinegar. Right? And his message was really to the seniors in the room, saying, you have a role, call your elected officials, sign the petitions, even if you can't move out of your chair anymore, you have a role to play, right? So, and maybe you're the person who just makes really good food, and you call the community together for a conversation about how your community is going to respond to the challenges ahead. And you provide the food. That's climate action, right? So the climate commitment badges, if you choose to take a badge and check this out online, you're going to find an invitation to get involved. You're going to find an invitation to get connected with others who are also worried and feeling isolated. You're going to have an opportunity to get out of your isolation, or out of the complacency we all get stuck in, and find some way to plug into this, right? And the other thing we've been trying to do with this program is to say, as scary as climate change is, it's also an opportunity for us to work together to change the way we do community. It's a way to change some of the old paradigms that haven't served us. Even the collaboration between HRM and the Ecology Action Center, two very different organizations, exemplifies what I'm talking about. It's pretty rare for a municipal government unit to reach out to a grassroots, rabble-rousing organization like the EAC and say, we'd like to work together. And we have, it hasn't stopped us from critiquing other things the HRM has done. But in this collaboration, we've worked really hard to overcome ego, work with telling the truth to each other about what's working and what's not working, find new ways of resolving conflict. This is not a bunch of suits in a room creating a program. This is a bunch of really vulnerable, frustrated, motivated people in a room trying to do a good thing together. And I can tell you I've so valued that collaboration, because it gives me hope that as a people, we can find a new way to work together to overcome this issue. It's been transformative from my perspective. Riley, I guess we can jump to the new one. Yeah, so This is a link to the website. I'm not going to go all through the website because you can go home and check it out, but I just wanted to give you a quick sense of what it looks like when you get to the web. The website sits on the HRM's overall website. When you get there, you'll see the title, Climate Commitment Badges. As you scroll down, you'll see the different badges. You can keep scrolling down there, Riley. I really appreciate your help on this. Thank you. Yeah, so there's the first one, which is Climate 101. These badges, by the way, were designed by local artists. So when you click on that image, it will take you to, as I said, links and opportunities and videos. You're going to see videos of other Nova Scotians in different communities talking about how climate is affecting their community and also talking about how they're coping with it. And that's the Getting Around badge, designed by the wonderful Molly Margaret. And this one will link to active transportation, things like borrowing walking sticks from the Halifax Public Library, getting a bike tuned up through Bike Again, trying out electric vehicles if that's possible, learning how to take a bike on transit, and also opportunities for volunteering with newcomers to the community through our Bike Again program, and lots of other choices besides. So when you check that out, the idea is you're not going to do everything we've got on the website, but you might connect with one thing that you really love. And that one's the Home Energy Badge. That one connects you to a lot of the Efficiency Nova Scotia programs that can support you in changing the way you're using home energy. Again, connects you to the Halifax Public Library's program for borrowing an energy meter. Does anyone know about that program? Yeah, you can borrow an energy meter from HPL, plug your old appliances into it and find out how much energy it's sucking out of your energy bill every month. It's very helpful. We're connecting, I'll use this as an example. I wanted to connect people to the library because, because I used to work in libraries, partly, but because the library is such a great resource. We're talking about climate action here, but we're also talking about getting connected to a resource that helps communities become more resilient. The other thing you'll find on this website is some great resources around dealing with climate anxiety and stress. There are some really good climate cafes in the HRM right now, one over in Dartmouth that I've tried out. It's fantastic. Some online, because processing the emotions around all of this is part of the work. It's part of the work. And if you scroll right to the very bottom of the website, you'll find a place where we would really like you to sign up. And here's my spiel about signing up. We're not going to send you information you don't want. We're not going to track you. The only reason we want you to sign up is so that we know that people have actually tried the program. So if you want to sign up with your dog's name, that's okay too. Right? But there is an opportunity there to, if you wish, opt in to receive updates from Halifax, and if you wish, receive updates from the Ecology Action Centre. But again, no pressure either way. Okay, so I feel like I've just thrown a whole lot of information out at you really quickly because I was trying to do it within 20 minutes. I think we're doing okay for time. Okay, all right. I think there are a few minutes for questions now, but I am going to stick around afterwards, and I do have badges with me if anyone, I've got them on my sweater, if anyone would like to take one home or two home or three home, you're very welcome to do it. The only thing we ask is wear them, tell people about them, and go to the website. Just check it out. No one's going to test you. It's all an invitation to get involved. All right. Having said all that, are there any questions? Online too, folks, if you've got anything you'd like to ask. We got Leslie online. Okay. Thanks, Leslie. Do you have a question?
Yes, yes. I'm getting back to a lot of feedback. Okay, that's better. That's good. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Really interesting. We don't live in HRM actually, and so my concern is, and my interest is in the wonderful resources you have there. And I just wondered how do you have ideas of extending the badge program outside HRM?
Thank you. That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. Yes is the short answer. I think what we're thinking of at this point is trying to create sort of a how we did it resource for other municipalities. Because the resources that we've gathered are largely HRM based, some of it would be of interest to any Nova Scotian, and some of it would really only be of interest to someone in HRM. So I think the ideal would be to have other municipalities take this on and develop their own versions of what we're trying to do. But yeah, if you're interested in the program, you're very welcome to check out the website, and you're going to find lots of resources that you'll connect with even if you're not here in HRM. Folks outside of HRM? Yeah, I think the best way to get badges if you're outside of HRM is I will leave my contact info with the folks here in Halifax, and you can feel free to email me and I can mail something out to you. I think that's the simplest way, because mostly we're handing out badges up front at meetings like this, but we can mail them out. Yeah. Yarmouth? Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. I can mail to Yarmouth. I think Canada Post still works. Oh, hi, way back there.
So, I think there's some conversations around climate that are digestible and easier to have, like transportation and home efficiency and those sort of things.
Right.
But then there are the ones that bring up a little more resistance, like the climate effects of war, the climate objectives of war, and like our food choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know if you have kind of experienced that resistance at all, and like what you would sort of recommend in those conversations.
Yeah, you know. It really is hard to have climate conversations. Yeah, okay. So the question was, there are some conversations around climate change that are easier to have around transportation. I forget what your other example was, but harder conversations might be the climate effects of war and our food choices. And the question was sort of, have we grappled with that, and is it part of the program? Is that sort of where you're going with that question? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think, how do I want to answer that? With the 3 badges that we have right now, we started with these 3 because they were the easiest entry points for people. And I think we are mostly speaking to people who are really not sure where to enter. So the Climate 101 badge actually involves, it does have some information about how to have a climate conversation with someone. It's a really important question, because we know that large societal changes don't happen until we talk about them and until those conversations are normalized. And most of us still aren't even talking about this with our friends and family. So the more we talk about it, the easier it becomes, and that Climate 101 badge will give you some tips and tricks for talking to your friends and family about this without falling into fist fighting, etc. But in terms of questions about food, one of the next badges is actually going to be a food badge. So yeah, we'll be tackling some of those questions. I think the way I'd like to answer that is, part of the challenge of having those conversations, from my perspective and in my experience, is that people tend to feel shame and then they feel resentment. So if you start talking with someone about food choices and you say, the only thing you can do if you're a good environmentalist is to be a vegan today, you know, that being a vegan is the optimal choice. It is. But you're going to get people going, ugh! You know, if you start there, you're not likely to get very far. If you've got someone who's eating McDonald's 3 times a day, saying go vegan tomorrow is really not the answer. So we're trying to provide more of a spectrum, because we know based on studies that if you can invite somebody to take one small sustainable step, one thing that they're actually going to follow through on for 6 months or more, that's the biggest predictor for them taking another step. So yeah, we kind of are starting at that low end, but trying to move people along. Yeah. Did you have a question as well?
I did.
Yeah.
I guess I had a couple questions, and you started answering it, but where are you headed next with the badges?
Right.
And then another question would be, what kind of data, or are you collecting data from folks to know what they've done or what changes they've made to then be able to share with folks?
Yeah.
Hey, we've seen an increase in, or I don't know how you would measure that, but
Right.
Yeah, are you collecting any data?
Two really good questions. Okay. The first one, where are we going with the program? We have 4 climate badges under development now. If you have any artists among you or know any young artists, we've just put an artists call out on the Ecology Action website for the design of the next 4 badges. We're hoping to have 4 different artists do the 4 badges. So the next...
Is that a voluntary thing?
No, it's paid. Yeah, it's a paid commission. So it's a $1,500 commission per artist, which is, yeah, I hope feels fair. We've worked really hard on trying to create a fair compensation structure for our artists. But the next badges are going to be around food, which will involve gardening and food waste and food choices, all things food. Nature connections, which will be really examining our relationships with nature and bringing in a lot of the Mi'kmaq perspective on Niduglamp, which is a much healthier, we think, relationship perspective between humans and the natural world, and also brings in our pillar of reconciliation, which is really important to us. The third one will be around almost like community resilience, so helping individuals, families, and communities figure out how to be more resilient against the weather changes and climate changes that are coming. And then we think the final badge is going to be one that the Ecology Action Center is developing around leadership. And the idea is, okay, so you've done all these badges, or you've been involved in this for a while, and now you want to get your community going. We're going to give some training to help you get out there and start a group or start an action or take it to the next level. We're also working in partnership with a group called, middle-aged brain. What are they called? It's a wonderful organization that has another online course that's sort of a step above the Climate Badge program. So, Riley, do you want to go to the very last slide? I think the link is there. Sorry about that. 56, and my brain has mental hiccups. Yeah, no, it isn't there either. It'll come to me. It's a wonderful online course developed by Nova Scotians for Nova Scotians that kind of takes all of this to a higher level. It'll come to me in a minute. So that's sort of the answer to your first question, where are we going? And in terms of data, we're tackling that from a couple of perspectives. This is part of why we want people to sign up online, is so that we have that sense. We've got the analytics from the website about who's signed up and how many, blah, blah, blah. There's also a place online where you can sort of type in, this is the thing I think I'm going to try to do. And we're hoping people will do that. But the other piece of data we're working on is actually more around qualitative stuff. So part of what's important about this program is that people go and do a thing. Part of what's important about this program is the opportunity for us to come to groups like this and interact in real time. So every time I go out to talk to a group in the community, and if you know more groups who would like a chat, let me know. I do some reflective writing afterwards. I take your questions back. I write about what people said, what people thought, what people wondered, any sort of critique I hear. So we're using that qualitative data, and we're also using it as a springboard, because sometimes they'll come out to a community group and they'll say, we're interested in climate change, but you know, our building hasn't been retrofitted. What do we do with that? And then I try to hook you up with the right resources. Or we've been doing programming for youth, but we haven't really tackled climate change. And then I'll work with that group to try to help them with programming. So there's data on various levels, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that Halifax has been doing in the last few years that's most top of mind for people is the huge amount of new development.
Yes.
And it has a big impact on the city's climate effects.
It does.
And one of the ways it has an impact is that I know that I think that Halifax has been quite good in thinking about the effect on transportation. So densification reduces the requirement for transportation.
Right.
But what they don't seem to have paid much attention to is the kind of materials that are going into buildings, like concrete. All these concrete high-rises
Yes.
have a very negative climate impact. I mean,
Yeah.
is there any movement in that direction, or is there a way,
Yeah.
in terms of advocacy and affordability, you know, the impact on affordable housing, also
Yeah.
those two things I think I've been very concerned about in terms of Halifax's.
Yeah, thank you. The question was around how, you know, I think how Halifax has been juggling with creating new and needed housing, but not necessarily managing building it or requiring it to be built with green building materials. Certainly concrete is one of the biggest sources of emissions globally. So yeah, it's complex. I think the way I would answer that is the Halifax team itself is one department of a big municipal government. My experience of Halifax has been that it's a lot of very motivated, very educated, often very young, non-bureaucratic folks who are working their buns off to make a difference. One of the things that they're in the process of doing is trying to bring that perspective and the Halifax plan into every other municipal department. And if any of you have ever worked with a large municipal government or tried to steer a large ship, for example, you know that course correction isn't fast. So the long answer is, I think you're going to see more of that as time goes by. You're seeing more and more the Halifax goals and ethics find their way into the transportation department, for example. I do think the HRM is really struggling with, oh gosh, we need housing, and we've got to balance that with our green belt, and we've got to balance that with our affordability, and we've got to balance it with climate. So that's a tough one for them, but I do think it is very much on their radar. This is where I would say all of you can help, because if those things are important to you as they are to me, reaching out to your municipal councillor and saying, hey, heard about Halifax, think it's a great idea. How are you tackling new housing? How are you balancing this? Just to let you know, this is an important balance for me. You know, that's what I would say. Yeah. Oop, hi.
Kate, first of all, thanks so much. This has been a very informative presentation. I appreciate what we all do for taking the time this morning. And also acknowledgement to the Ecology Action Center, just for the leadership the organization has shown for decades this program. Yeah, no, I mean,
they're amazing.
one of the other climate actions is to consider a donation to the EAC to support its ongoing work. I really like the idea of it being a menu, which seems to be what it is, so you can pick and choose. It just seems to be, and addressing that whole idea, what can I do? I'm wondering, I haven't looked at the program yet, but I'm wondering if it lends itself to workplace involvement. And I mention that because often you'll find folks who work for a company are far more motivated to do something than their employers.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know if there's a corporate component to this, but if there isn't, it seems to me the workplace is the place to make things happen.
That's a really great question. The question is around, does this badge program lend itself to workplace involvement? What we're trying to say to groups of all kinds, nonprofit and community groups and workplaces, is although it's sort of designed for individuals to do, you absolutely could do it in any sort of group setting. So if you folks in your community wanted to put together a learning circle, for example, you could go through some of the badge learnings and videos and stuff together and discuss it. It would absolutely be pretty impactful if you did it that way. You certainly don't have to, but you could. And in a workplace, it would be similar. There is also, the Halifax Chamber has a program specifically for industry and business leaders, and trying to get CAOs and university presidents to sign on to a climate charter. And that group is doing more within workplaces specifically. So we haven't targeted that group because it kind of exists, but it could certainly be used in that way, yeah. Was there one more question? I thought I saw a hand up, and then I'm going to, yeah, hi.
You did. I'm sitting here, my blood pressure going up.
No.
I'm a great fan of EAC. I worked there a lot in the 70s.
Oh, lovely.
When the poster was, war is unhealthy for children and other things. We could certainly bring that back now.
Yeah.
But I am so sad to see Halifax, which used to be called the City of Trees. It's not that way anymore. And I don't see, I'm glad there's so many women on the council, but trees, we are taking them down everywhere. We are allowing more tarmac, more blacktop, more concrete. We have a single family house going next door to us that has enough concrete in it for a 10-story apartment building. And we think maybe that's what he's going to do, but we don't know. But it seems that every backyard, every space that we can find, we are going to build at least 8 stories, and it's going to be glass and concrete or that awful plastic. And also, we still are going to need to go to grocery stores. A lot of communities in Europe, first of all, they're usually 4 to 6 stories. They're people friendly, and there's always a bodega or some wee market where people can walk. We can't walk to our supermarket unless we live right there.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, if you're over 80, you're going to take a car to take that.
I know that very concern, that lack of walkability in new developments is one. I just talked with Councillor Patty Cuttle about that because her background is planning. And she's very concerned about some of the developments in Spryfield doing just exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I used to be able to count the trees. We let developers cut down the trees because they might be a little inconvenient. So we widen the sidewalk, and if trees are there, there's saplings that are going to be destroyed often either by snowplows or by vandals.
Right.
We really, one of the first fortresses against climate change is trees.
I totally take your point. There are some, I can tell you that there are some folks within HRM who are extremely committed to the urban forest.
Nobody's listening to them though.
But, and again, I think that's where, it's interesting what we saw with the community pushback to some of the Premier's recent attempts to change things. He took some pretty significant steps back this week as a result of the hue and cry.
Not against the coastal protection.
Not yet. I know. Yeah, we're not going to touch that. But yeah, I think the only thing I can say there is we're definitely hoping to encourage folks through the badge program when we get to the Nature Connections badge to think about those questions. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Thank you so much, Kate. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you will be around for a bit afterwards, so people can bring their questions up then. Let's close with our final hymn. 134, Our World is One World. Stand if you're able. Leslie will read our closing words.
These words from Denise Berbatov. And I'm getting an echo again. Okay, we're good. A certain day became a presence to me. There it was, confronting me, a sky, air, light, a being. And before it started to descend from the height of noon, it leaned over and struck my shoulder, as if with the flat of a sword, granting me honor and a task. That day's blow rang out, metallic sounding. Oh, it was I. A bell awakened, and what I heard was my whole self saying and singing what it knew. I can.
Thank you, Leslie. You are all welcome to stay for coffee and conversation. And Zoom will be, or Kate will be here as well, or stay for a chat on Zoom. But I realize there's something else on Wednesday. An hour at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, there is a Zoom panel discussion around climate action, which is aimed at seniors and the connections from a whole different group of organizations that will be talking about how seniors can get involved with them. And that's at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. So I can, it's on Zoom. So I can send out the link for that event too. And I think Ecology Action Center is involved in that too. Yes.
Also, before everyone leaves, sorry, this is Riley at the back. We have a group that comes in every night for Ramadan. So if we could all stack the chairs by the piano after the service is done, that'd be great. Thanks.